Hey friends, you are welcome back to another episode on the In the Meantime podcast. My name is Courage. I am the host on here and I'm really excited for us to have our chat today. Mostly excited because the year is coming to an end. So this is officially going to be our last episode of the year before a little Christmas break and a New Year break. So you guys can also go enjoy your lives and then we'll kick it again in January. But today we're going to be having a very beautiful conversation. We're going to be talking all about purpose and just seeing where God takes us with how we can get into the new year, get into purpose, get into our calling, become the people that we were really created to be, and in many ways stand on business. But for us to unpack all of this, I have a beautiful guest with me. Akea, you are welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yay. I'm so excited and happy that we could get to, sit down and have this chat today. But before we get to know you a little bit more, I do have an icebreaker question for all my guests. So what is one lesson you've learned this year so far? And actually the year is coming to an end, so
yeah.
It's like, well,
this year I learned that that God is, and this is going to be the most simplest thing, but I learned that he really is good.
Oh, wow.
That God is really good. As you go through life, you question that sometimes. And I think this year he solidified it for me. And I don't mean good in general. I mean like in my life personally.
Yeah.
That he is good and he's faithful to his word.
Wow, I love that so much. I think this week I had this aha moment because I was just having a really hard week, and then I was listening to a podcast sermon, and then at the end the preacher was like, God is good to me. She was like, this is what you should say to yourself every morning.
Right.
God is good to me, and God he's good at being good.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's nice, I'm gonna say that every day.
Yeah, you gotta really grasp what that means.
Yeah, it's like he's good at being good, and I think sometimes we forget that, So God is good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good reflection. So but before we dive into everything, please let us know, share us whatever you need to share about yourself. Who's Akea? How long have you been in Dubai? And where you from? Just like whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. Well, I'm from Virginia, USA, a little military town called Norfolk, Virginia. 757 for those of you who know. Okay. And I've been abroad for like the last 7 to 8 years. I moved to Beijing, China for 4 years where I taught English to kindergarten and first graders. And then I transitioned in 2022 here to Dubai. I've been here for about 4 years now. Yeah. And now I work with 6th grade English literature students. And I'm also in my master's. That's where the transition is coming in.
Yeah.
I'm in my master's for clinical mental health counseling, transition into counseling.
Oh, that's nice. So, but now I have a question. Like, what actually inspired you to want to do your master's in clinical, psychology?
Yeah, so I try not to go too deep into it because there's a whole story behind it. But I knew that teaching was not the only thing I'd be doing. I knew for me, teaching would be done in a different way. So yes, I taught, traditionally in a classroom, but I just got to a place where I felt like the next step was there for me to move forward to the next step. And after really paying attention to different things around me and things that God was showing me, this is where I ended up finding as the best place to go next, which is counseling. Plus my own, my own story, my own life is what kind of inspired me as well to go into counseling. So, yeah.
That's nice. I've been lately interested in nutrition. So I actually signed up for a course and I was like, I'm going to do it.
You should.
I'm going to do it because I'm really interested in cooking right now and actually cooking healthy food, making better options. I was like, this would be a nice thing to share with other people. So I want to study it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I think these pivots are part of life.
Yeah.
And just looking at the year ending, a lot of us are going to be pivoting. By next year we're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this one anymore.
Yeah, a lot of pivots.
A lot of pivots. But I think it's good. Change is beautiful. Pivoting, it's we should be okay with pivoting from I think we're not put on this earth to just do one thing till we die.
Not at all.
Try as many as possible. Yeah. And that in many ways just segues us into what we're actually talking about today. And it's something that I watch you talk about. So you love to talk about living a purpose-driven life. And so my question to you is what actually inspired that? And what would you say are the qualities of someone who is living in their purpose?
Yeah, so for me, it started when I was a teenager. I used to have a hobby of sitting in Barnes and Noble in the U.S., which is a bookstore. And so I found a lot of peace and relief in going to this bookstore and just sitting in there and getting lost in books. And I would get lost in two categories. So it was either travel, because I just desired to travel. I just knew I wanted to go abroad. But then I also would get lost in the inspirational or self-help section, because I felt like I learned a lot of wisdom from it, and I was exposed to a way of thinking that I didn't grow up being taught. And so one of my favorite books at the time was The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren.
Yeah. Did you read the first version? You know, the
I read the
one?
brown one, the old first version. Yes. I'm now working on the second version, updated version, the white one. But I read the first copy, and I read it maybe twice, I think, through the whole book. And that book really just, it brought to light that no matter what you go through, you have a purpose. And even if things don't look good right now, or if you're going through trials and tribulations back to back, there's a bigger plan that God has given you. And so that book gave me hope. It gave me direction. And it just gave me relief from what I was dealing with at the time. And so from there, I just had this tunnel vision of, I have a purpose, and, you know, I have to live this life with intention. I have to live a purpose-driven life. So I even made it my my Instagram name, Purpose Driven. And that's kind of my mantra, has been my mantra since I was a teenager.
Yeah. I think one of the things I picked up from that book was like, because he talked about service, like serving others, you know, I'd being part of one of the things that we are put here to do, like it's part of our purpose. And for me, like, I think it really resonated with me, because I was just like, I think for me, I love nurturing things, and I love connecting people and bringing people together. So I was like, oh, this is part of my purpose, because I think sometimes you don't see things when you're in the middle of it, but in hindsight, like, I think I have a friend who often reminds me of, like, if you look back, you know, like when you were a teenager, in many ways there's a consistency of some of the things you've done, whether you realize it or not. Like, she was like, you've been doing this for such a long time. And I think sometimes until you realize it and embrace it, you don't fully walk in the fullness of it, you know. But then when you talked about an intentional life, I love that so much, because I feel like a good amount, or right now, let's say the percentage of people living an intentional life has gone up, because I think most of us are waking up to the fact that, first of all, tomorrow is not promised. You ain't got no time. Okay, you got time, but like, what you're doing with your time, like, it's so important. So I think a lot of us are waking up to that fact of, like, let's be more intentional with our habits, how we're treating family, the way we're going with our career, and just like even our words, we have to be intentional with even the little things of life. So what would you say from your own point of view, and maybe even like watching life, the people around you and everything, what are the qualities of an intentional person who is like walking towards living a purpose-driven life?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I would start with is being God conscious. I know we live in a society or age where everybody is looking at self through manifestation and giving themselves the credit. But for me, I've always lived a God conscious life, trying to make sure I consult with him about everything, making sure I run everything by him, making sure everything I decide to do has been something that I think will glorify God. And so for me, having that God consciousness that you were made for him and by him, and everything you do should glorify him, that in turn causes you to make sure you're always checking in with him before you do anything. And what you're thinking about, how would God feel about this? What would he say to this? Would he approve of this? And I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes along the way, but that
those little nudges of like Holy Spirit conviction, I think that's it. You know,
exactly.
Just checking in with him. Is this something I should be doing? I do that a lot. I feel like it saves me from a lot, and I didn't used to consciously overdo it before. And I realized there's some things that I did in my life or that happened that I felt like if I had just spoken to God about it, or if I had just did what he told me to do.
That was exactly. That's not perfect, but you know, trying to make sure you're God conscious, and making sure he'll get the glory out of it. You also need, I would say the second thing is identity. You know, struggling, we all struggle with our identity, especially in your early years. Or maybe you're lucky, you grew up always knowing who you are, but when you don't know who you are,
I'm like, ooh, because sometimes you think you know, because I feel like your early years are like your nurturing years. Like, even though you think you know who you are, there's so much more that you could discover as you go.
And then you have to decipher through people trying to tell you who you are. And, you know, and for me, I kind of believed people at some point in my life. And so it was kind of hazy trying to see who you are through the, you know, voices of other people. And I think once you get a good foundation on who you are and you're sure about it, then you can look at yourself through God's lens, and then actually confidently go into what he's called you into and identify your purpose.
Yeah.
And so, of course, your purpose has a lot to do with who you are and your gifts and your strengths as well. So if you don't know who you are, it's going to be kind of hard to, to figure out your purpose.
Yeah.
So, I would say identity. There's another one.
Give it to us.
Resilience. So resilience is something I learned throughout my life, especially going through so much in my life and having so many setbacks. Nothing comes easy, even your purpose from God. And so you have to be able to bounce back and pick yourself up and keep going in order to get to purpose. That, the enemy throws things at us. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to get past that and keep going and have a warrior spirit. And that's something I asked God for when I was young. I asked for a warrior spirit, and I think he gave me that.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just, oh my goodness. When you said that, ask God for it, when we're like, God, give me peace. And then things really start happening to make you get that peace. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you asked for resilience. That's so good. I think for me, I picked up resilience along the way. Or maybe I think originally when I started this podcast, even when the name was She Is Strong, it came from in our weakness, he is strong. But then I think during that season, I was realizing how strong I was. I didn't know I could face so many things by myself or even still keep waking up. So I was like, I'm actually more resilient than I thought I was, So that's why in many ways the name made sense at that time. Yeah, but I really want to just talk about identity a little bit because you mentioned it. And I think it's something that our generation is struggling with. There's this struggle of who am I? What am I meant to be doing? And even down to who are we even physically? We're doing all of these changes and so many things are going on within the society right now and within humans itself. So I think for me, I have basic things that I tell people who are struggling with identity crisis, and I have some things that I'm journal, because I feel journal is good. Go to therapy if you need to go to therapy. Not if you need to. We all need to. Yeah, we need to. Even if it's once in a year, or because I did therapy for 1 year, and then after that I was done, and I was just okay, I'm gonna keep going. But you at least need to go at least once in your life to unpack so many things. So I have journaling, I have therapy, and then for me I have community, connecting with God, because I think when you connect with the person who created you, you will know what you're here for, who you are, and how he created you to be. So I think for me, that's always even the first thing, connecting with your creator and knowing the kind of person that he has created you to be. So for you, if you were to tell someone who's what is my identity? Who am I meant to be? What am I meant to pursue even? What are your own tips or things that you do to get to know your values and your likes and your dislikes and all those things?
Well, first I'll say it comes through walking throughout your life. Like I said, early on in your years, unless you're one of those lucky ones, you don't always fully know who you are. It comes with living life and being and growing in maturity and going through things. Unfortunately, you have to go through things to kind of learn more about yourself. And as you learn yourself, you'll come to those conclusions. But yes, also, like I said, making sure you're always consulting with God about who you are and who he says you are. And then your upbringing does matter. You have parents who instill in their kids from beginning identity and show them who they are, and pour into their strengths and their gifts. But then if you're like me, you might not have had that growing up, and so it takes a little more trial and error to figure it out. And so for me, it was always seeking God about who I am, and having him pour into me my identity, but also paying attention to what you go through, learn the lessons from that, paying attention to your strengths and even the things you've been through and how they could help other people. Pay attention to the clues. Like I always say, there's always clues in life. And if you pay attention to them and you extract the lessons from them, you can then kind of understand yourself a bit better as well. And then looking at your strengths and what you are good at and looking at how that can translate into something that can help other people as well. Yeah,
that's so good. So let's just talk about, let's say someone who's living in their purpose and everything. What would you say are the qualities of someone who is living in their purpose and someone who is really still shaky and struggling and still trying to balance through maybe people pleasing or doing what everyone else wants? And especially now that we live in the world that we live in, there's so much that can go into that. And even when we're talking about identity, usually when I tell people find out who you are, they always think I'm telling them to go find self-help. But honestly, like it always goes back to you getting connected to your creator and going to know who God has made you to be. So I sometimes feel like people don't want to do that work, because for you to do that, you wouldn't always need to be, you know, lost in the crowd or in the middle of people. You will need to sit by yourself sometimes. You will need to have those conversations with God for you to get to know who you are. And I think many people avoid time alone and just getting to know themselves properly. So it's not self-help. It's not, because I think we've also confused self-care nowadays. It's a lot of things. It's more than candles. That's the easiest way I say it. I'm like, it's more than candles. It's so much more deeper than that. It goes to your spiritual, your mental, your emotional health, your physical health. It's so heavy, actually.
Yeah, it is.
But then, like, so there's someone who's like struggling with people pleasing. I want to do what they want me to do. The world tells us something else. Someone is struggling with boundaries. So many things. There's so many things that could be holding us back from walking in our purpose. For you, like, okay, let's do it like this. What are some of the things that you think are holding us back from walking in our purpose? And maybe the second part of the question is like, how does it look like for that person who is working in their purpose? And I think this could look like habits or priorities, you know.
Yeah. So the things I think that really hold us back, fear is one of the biggest ones. Fear of failure, fear of what people will say or think, fear of who you might offend if you fully walk into your purpose, fear of having to walk it alone, that no one will be there to support, or people will misunderstand you. That was a big one for me, is being misunderstood. Fear, that alone is enough to cripple anyone. And so if you don't get a hold on the fear or get to a place where you just don't care, that will be enough to stop you. I think also not having boundaries. So basically allowing distractions in your life, allowing yourself to be swayed, that you never get anything done or never achieve anything because you're always all over the place. But also people, not having boundaries with people. And people, I always say this, I hate to say this, but
I know
people can set you back. People can set you back, especially in the area of relationships and with men or even with friends. Being in the wrong crowd or being around the wrong people, it can set you back. It can derail your destiny. And so you want to make sure you are mindful about who you get close to.
When you said I hate to say that, I think we all hate to say it. But I think sometimes we hate to say it because in many ways people do get offended, whether you were talking about them or it didn't even relate to them. But people do get offended where we say that, because actually in a way it's true.
It is.
And it hits somewhere, and that's why there's some truth that comes out of it. So you're like, oh, I don't like that. I'm offended at that. But then people can't set you back. But the way I try to look at it is, if I'm being honest, for me personally, I love community. I love friendships, and romantic or platonic, I think they're very beautiful family and everything. I've had some really great things happen in my life just because I met someone, or just because I'm around the right friends, or I met the right partner, or my family is like, you know, full on supporting and so many things. So I've seen the good side of it, and I've also seen the messy side of community like that. Like, there's some environments that are really draining, some that don't even, you know, encourage you enough to want to step into your purpose and everything. And then when you finally do start maybe stepping out and doing some other things, now it kind of looks like, so who does she think she is? Why is she doing this? And so there's a lot. So community can set you, like, people can hold you back, and people can also help you grow.
Exactly.
So that's why I think, for me personally, I think discernment and wisdom has to really be applied when it comes to relationship, because it is an area that the enemy fights because he knows that there's something there. So you need a lot of wisdom, you need a lot of discernment, because there's so many people that could walk into your life to uplift it, and there's so many people that come into it like to hold you back. But yeah, so you talked about fear, you talked about people. Anything else you want to add to that list?
You actually said one of the things I was going to say is quality that helps you find your purpose, which is discernment. And that comes through the boundaries, the lessons you learn through boundaries. When it comes to like being able to find your purpose, I always say purpose is discerned. It's something you have to draw out. And even the Bible says that it's something you have to draw out. It's not easily in your face. And you can spend your whole life trying to, you know, chase this and figure this out. I want to say this first. Our purpose is God. Okay. So maybe I should say calling, but purpose is God. You were made for him and by him. So you're made to serve him and to glorify him.
Yeah.
But underneath that umbrella, you have callings and things like that you pursue and that you do to get to the bigger picture. And so it is discerned. It's something you have to seek God about, and you have to really pay attention and learn yourself, again, the identity, to be able to achieve it. And so, that's one of the biggest qualities, learning discernment. And that comes through all the mistakes and the trial and errors throughout your life with the people and with boundaries and learning how to set them.
And experience, like you said, experiences. As you go through life, you learn a little bit more. There's sometimes when I'm going through a situation and I feel like it's so hard and it's like, refining me, I have to always take some time to sit and be like, what exactly am I supposed to be learning here? Because if there's one thing that I hate in my life is going through something again. I know I cannot help it all the time, but then because you will go through some things over and over again till you learn the lesson.
Right.
But then I got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, we're gonna get this right the first time. I will try. I might not get it right the first time all the time, but I want to try. So I will sit down and I'm gonna be like, what am I learning in this? And also, like, when things happen to me, I often don't like to take the victim route. I don't want to be like, they did this to me, this happened, this situation was, I don't want to do that. Like, usually, I always feel like, because there's this statement that people use, they're like, the way people respond to you and the way people treat you or whatever is mostly a reflection of them and not you. And I know that can be like 100% right when it's like a stranger that I bumped in the morning and they're just mad that day. I don't know them. I'm never going to see them again. It's a reflection of maybe their day, their morning or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like that when it comes to the people that I am doing life with, I have an 80-20 rule. And I'm not saying that everyone has to agree with this, but this is just how I go with it. Like, I try to look at, okay, they treated me this way, they said this and blah, 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 blah. What did I do to enable the situation? Because sometimes we enable bad habits and we let people walk all over us. I'm like, what did I do? How can I do it differently next time? What do I need to say next time? How can I speak up better? How can I stand up for myself? What are my actions? Am I too available? Am I, all those things. So I sit back and I'm not just like, they did this, because when we do that, we don't learn anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what was my 20%? And I write it down and I'm like, next time I'm not going to do this again. So and we can only try, but it comes to experience. If I never experienced that, I would not get to know what I like, what I don't like. Like now I know what I want in relationships, what I don't want, how I want to be treated. And I actively seek that out, or I actively try to apply it. If I communicate it, you don't like it, I'm like, oh, you're not my person. It's fine. I love you. You're good. You're kind and everything, but you're not my person. So, but then you talk about boundaries, and let's just like talk a little bit about that, because I feel like there's so much information about boundaries like in the world right now, and in a way it's overwhelming. I think there's information about too many things. I think we're too knowledgeable and we're not really practicing so many things. So there's a lot. Everyone is toxic. Everyone is narcissistic. Everyone is something these days, and we're too quick to point fingers and blame people for so many things. But there's a way, because I also went through my journey where I was trying to relearn boundaries, because I'm a very open person. So in a way, like, I feel like people just walked into my life a lot, and I had to, I had to start learning boundaries. But then being a Christian, I think I really struggled with it for a very long time, because I'm like, how loving is this? How Jesus-like is this? So I really had to take out time to study it and then try to see how I can lovingly apply it into my life. So what I ended up with, and it looks different for everyone. For me, it was like, I set boundaries on myself, not on people. So my boundary could be like, I sleep at 10. Whatever you do after that, I'm not coming out at 10. I communicated to you that I'm sleeping at 10. You are like, okay, I'll invite her maybe like by 8 we should be done. You know what I mean? So if you're loving enough, you're going to be like, I know she sleeps at 10, so I'm not going to do this unless maybe there's an emergency or something is happening. So for me, I believe that we put boundaries on ourselves, not on others. Our job is to communicate it, and your people will align. And I'm not saying like you should live a selfish life where you're like, everyone should walk around me, but you're also accommodating to the other person and seeing how you guys can, especially people that you're doing life with. You might not do this with everyone, but the people that you're actively doing life with, you have to learn how to communicate your boundaries, because we all do. Even the Bible says guard your heart, and if you look at guarding, it's like putting up a good wall, but then the wall shouldn't keep people out. I feel like it should bring people in, because if I'm telling you that I'm sick and I cannot do this, and you're forcing me, I don't think that's loving enough. So I'm telling you what I'm communicating to you I feel like it teaches us love. It teaches us to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and be like, oh, this is what my neighbor is going through. I should try to understand. You know, so I feel like boundaries teach us love when done right.
Yeah.
So, but then like, what have your experiences been with boundaries, and how do you like apply it in your life?
So for me, it was a hard walk. It's okay. It's okay.
This is fun.
For me, boundaries has been a hard lesson to learn. I think I'm just now in my mid-30s getting to a place where I am effectively setting boundaries much better. I think, and I was going to say this first, a good way to look at your boundaries or determine if you're good at setting them is to look at your wounds. I feel like for me, my wounds was what was keeping me from setting the right boundaries. People pleasing, going on, you know, what do you call it? Self-abandonment, self-abandoning things I know I either stood for or I know was against what I wanted to do at the time. And so your wounds is a big indicator of your ability to set proper boundaries and how you set them. Yeah. If you haven't taken that time to, you know, really identify your wounds and understand them and work to heal them, it's going to probably be hard for you to have proper boundaries. And so I did a lot of, the biggest one was people pleasing. You know, I can't think of an example at this moment, but for me, it was letting people run all over me, you know, bullying me. And this is more in my early years, making me feel less than, telling me who I am instead of who I believe myself to be. And saying yes to things that I really didn't want to say yes to, you know, allowing people to overstay their welcome in my life when I know they were not good for me, or seeing something as, you know, having discernment about something, but ignoring it. That is what lack of boundaries look like for me. And, you know, a lot of it is also you don't want to hurt people's feelings by saying no to this or saying I noticed this and I don't think this is good for me. And so you'll say yes to make the other person feel comfortable when really you're like, my spidey senses are tingling.
My spidey senses.
Yes, I need to, you know, but you'll say yes. And so now at this age, I'm at a place where I've said enough. I'm not self-abandoning myself anymore so that other people feel lifted up. Because what I find is people, and I don't want to say this about everyone, but in my life particularly, people, you can force your boundaries, you can enforce them, you can make them known, but people still will test it. I find people still test it. When you don't set boundaries, people default to still, what's the best word for this?
The right word.
They still default to, I guess, disappointing you in some way. I'll say that. But even now, setting boundaries, I'm finding that people will still test it. Like if I tell you I'm not going anywhere during the week because I have work, people will still keep pushing that, for example. That's just a light example. But people will still test your boundaries. They will still test it, even when you set them. And so boundaries is a tricky thing to learn. It is a tricky thing to master because I don't know if people don't listen or what it is. They just keep testing them.
Actually, I also realize people just do what they want to do at the end of the day. Like right now, I just leave people where they are. I'm like, you want to do that? Okay. The sky is blue to you. It's green. Whatever you want to do, baby girl, do that. Because like people are going to do what they want to do. They're going to think what they want to think. Unless someone is like really like concerned or really into that relationship and wants to grow it before they're gonna make adjustments. But I feel like that's why there's that circle of life. Like for me, I also don't like to compartmentalize my friendships and my relationships and be like, oh, this is the friend, this is this one. That is so tiring. Like, because, and also like I feel like sometimes you could box people up. It is good for some seasons, but not all seasons, because that friend who is like a Pilates friend could become a coffee friend, who could later become a couch friend. So it's like I don't want to box people up and then just keep them there. But let's see how I believe in time. Give relationships time. There are a few girls that I met, I think last year. This year were like the best of friends. But if we just rushed things last year, I'm not sure we will be here then. But it took time. It took multiple coffee dates. It took like multiple activities for us to get to know each other, get comfortable enough. So give relationships time, and they will actually, because I don't like it when I meet someone and then the next 2 minutes we're like best friends. I'm like, how? We just met 2 minutes ago. What are you talking about?
Very common these days.
Like how did, especially with the brunch and stuff, like you just go for brunch one time. Oh yeah, bestie. I'm like, we just had brunch one time. How is this possible? And this is not to make anyone feel bad. I also think like that person doesn't have boundaries, or they don't know what they want to do. They don't know, because I also feel like we don't take things as seriously. Like I know sometimes people don't want to take it as seriously, but your friendships, your relationships, or romantic, that you have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Because your calling is on the line. Everything is on the line. Like, if you have friends that drink, you're gonna start drinking. If you have friends that smoke, whether we like it or not, these are realities of life.
Yeah.
But I think you said something which I just really want to make someone feel okay with. I feel like there's a people pleaser in all of us, like a little bit.
Definitely.
Some have it like it's so big and prominent, and some is very subtle, maybe in like some little things. But there's a people pleaser in all of us, and it might be there for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I feel like you said, it's learning to adjust as you go. I think is you're learning on the go. What boundaries do I need to set in this area? In this area, do I need to tweak it a little bit as I'm maturing, as and I'm growing?
Yeah.
And I think also something that can set someone at ease is if you don't have healthy boundaries in your teens and your early 20s or your 20s in general, like, don't beat up yourself about it, because those are your formative years. You're still trying to find out what you even like in coffee.
Yeah.
It's okay. I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because I hear so many women, and I have these conversations with like women older than me, when they like clock 30, that is when they fully had understood their identity. And I think it
happens, yes.
Yeah, so you should enjoy it when you're that time. You're like, okay, now I have healthy boundaries, and don't beat up yourself like when you didn't have it before, when you let someone else walk all over you, or whatever it is. You were also learning from that, because if they didn't walk over you wouldn't have known that, oh, I really don't like that, the way they spoke to me or the way they did that. So it's all part of the whole refinement journey. But do you feel like we've taken boundaries out of context in our generation?
Yes, I do. Of course, with social media, and even, what is it, Gen X? I think that's, or Gen Z, maybe Gen Z at this point, boundaries has, and you'll hear all types of psychologists and therapists speaking about this on social media.
I try to check if they're licensed first, because
you have to check
I can
first.
read a book. I've read so many books. I think I could start a course if I want to. So we need
there's
to check their
coaches
license.
too, which is a difference. There's coaches out there too, which is a difference. But you do see a lot of people speaking of boundaries, and really it's to avoid certain things, or it's to
enable,
like you said, avoid accountability for certain things, or just to have a cancel culture, cut off people like that. And that's when you have to look at if you're setting healthy boundaries or not, which obviously that's not healthy. That's really just you avoiding being uncomfortable.
Or the favorite line is, if it doesn't serve me, it's out.
Right.
Okay. Everything is gonna serve you. You're not gonna live a good life at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, to some extent, it's good to see. I guess it's kind of like when you go from a generation that didn't have boundaries.
Oh, now
you go to one that does. It's like one extreme to the next.
There's always extremes with all of this thing.
It is. So it's better, I guess, something than nothing. But where do we level out at some point?
I feel like that's where discernment and wisdom comes in.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So I feel like, especially when it comes to like learning, getting so much information on how you should be living your life, I think there should be a lot of discernment and wisdom, especially if you're getting it from the internet. Like, are the sources okay? Where are they speaking from? Because I feel like we trauma dump a lot in this generation, and even online. Like, if your relationship is not working out, your boyfriend or your husband doesn't text you 2 times a day, and mine texts me 2 times a day, why is that a problem? Like, in many ways, people make their relationship problem your relationship problem, and they start telling you how to react to your friend, how to react to your neighbor, but that's your neighbor. That's your husband. That's your friend. What? It's not mine. Like, I know what's going on in my life. Like, I could learn from your experiences. This is something that gets me all the time. Like, I could learn from your experiences, but it doesn't mean that's my experience. Like, you could be having a really good date, and then you go online and someone is like, if you did this on the first date, I'm like, I was having a really good date.
Maybe they're okay with that and you're not. It also depends on that.
But it also depends. Like, watching the sunset with your partner should, like, if I watch a sunset with my partner and I feel like that was a really good date, and then you go online and someone is like, that's the bare minimum and whatever, that's what I mean, actually. Like, it could be something that is healthy, but because your standards, or I don't know how to put it, but I'm just like, we shouldn't force our bad experiences or try to tell people that because I had this bad experience, you're gonna have this bad experience too. I could learn and try to be like, there's a lot of projection. I could be like, okay, maybe this happened to her. If I start seeing some of these things in my own relationships or in my friendships, then I can know what to do. But it doesn't mean that's what is gonna happen, and I mustn't take it because it happened to you.
Yeah, I think it goes back into identity. When you know who you are, there's just voices. It's just voices, and you take the meat and spit out the bones, right? And so people are looking for. I always say people are looking for an answer. They're looking for purpose. They're searching. People are searching.
They are searching.
And social media is a good place for people where they go to search.
Yeah.
And so you get all the good and the bad, and people don't always know how to decipher what to take and what to leave. And they might be okay with something, but just because someone else said it, now it's a problem. Again, identity, knowing who you are, what you like, what you don't like.
I love how we always come back to identity. Yeah, I think because it's the core of your entire being.
Yeah.
You know, but okay, so for you, what are some of the things you've seen maybe online, especially when it comes to like psychological terms? Maybe let's just talk about boundaries actually, because I feel like boundaries is such a big one, because I feel like it's at the center of your becoming. You know, the things you choose to let go of, the things you choose to take on, unlearn and relearn. Boundaries is at the center of it. So what are some of the things that maybe you've heard that you feel like you don't agree with, and some of the things that you feel like you agree with that maybe are healthier?
I don't agree with, I know a lot of people that are like successful, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I hope this categorizes boundaries, which I can. But there's a lot of people that are successful, or at least look successful online, that are saying things like, let go of the losers. Ooh. I hate calling people losers.
Yeah, even there's a lot.
That's their boundary, but I hate calling people losers.
Even calling people like, this one is low quality.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you get to do that? Like, it's not proper. It's not right.
I just think it's not tasteful to me. I don't feel like, I mean, you have people, life is about choices. We have choices. You make choices. Some people choose, make choices that land them in success, and some people make choices that set them back. But everybody at some point gets there, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know,
and everyone is on their own journey. It might come to you faster. Someone else still needs 10 years, and that's fine.
Yeah, it might take them longer than it took you, or it might take someone quicker. But eventually everyone comes to their own reckoning, their own realization, and have achieved some level of success in some area of their life. Even if it's not big in front of the world, they get there at their own pace. And so when we say things like losers, I think it takes the humanity away from people, but also it doesn't step into the shoes to understand what that person may have gone through. And so we don't want to like squat on other people just because we're getting ahead or just to get ahead. And I get that some people's boundaries, they're not going to associate with certain people. And I get it. But just calling people losers, it makes me cringe.
Yeah. But do you feel like that happens because of their own wounds?
It could be.
Yeah, I do think so sometimes, but I feel like that's something they shouldn't project. Yeah. Especially, okay, if this, I think I was watching something that put this into perspective. There are times that when you start changing and when you start evolving on some things, some people in your life will behave weird. Yeah. They're going to like, the ones that want you to stay the same, the ones that do encourage you and be like, oh, this is nice. You go keep doing it. So I feel like the response to the ones that, change or become weird, aren't really responsive, is what causes this thing.
That's a hater, not a loser.
Exactly. So we should know the difference.
That's a hater, and even if it's just hating in that moment, that's a hater.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's a hater. It's not a loser. No. But I think it's because they're confusing it. Because I feel like they're putting the both of them into the same category. It's not right. You know.
Some of them are looking at losers, people who are not successful or haven't achieved it. Remember, you don't know what anyone's working on or what they will become or who God says they are. And so I find a lot of people will be labeling people as losers. You don't know what that person will become. So it could be they're using it the wrong term. But
I do think that, but we have a lot of using it the wrong terms these days.
Yeah, it is.
A lot.
Like the boundaries, yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of that. So I think know the difference between a loser and a hater. And you shouldn't call anyone a loser, by the way.
I don't use that word.
Everyone is on a journey. You never know. Actually, you don't really know what people are going through. Even when you really know someone, you still don't know what they're going through.
Right.
So I think the most gracious thing to do is to, just don't do that and leave people.
Yeah, if you got to remove yourself. But you ain't got to go around, you loser.
What other thing?
So I think we spoke about like the cancel culture, people saying boundaries, and then they're cutting off people as soon as they see the first sign of conflict. Yeah. And I've had that happen in my relationships where I was the one cutting off or I was cut off. And it could be like a whole misunderstanding. Yeah. We're human. In humanity, there's misunderstanding. There's risk that comes with being in a relationship. There's
a little bit of disappointments here.
Exactly. Disappointments as well, depending on what the person did. I just think cutting off people so quick, that is a big issue now in today's society.
I think it's because we don't communicate.
Communication is a big part of it.
We don't talk, we don't have conversations. And I feel like, personally for me, when there's conflict, there's so many things that can make me know if I'm keeping someone in my life or if I'm distancing myself from them. Yeah. Are you okay having that conversation? Because I also realized, like, before we used to be like, still keep them, don't cut them off. But I'm like, okay, I tried to have the conversation, it didn't work out. You know, they don't want to have the conversation, they don't want accountability, they don't want
different. Yeah.
So that was when I was like, oh, this thing actually goes both ways, you know. Yeah. So but I think like giving people the benefit of the doubt, even though sometimes, again, I feel like there are always two sides to this coin. Sometimes we can be telling people giving the benefit of the doubt, and they're just like entertaining unhealthy stuff, and they're like going down the, you know. So sometimes I'm like I hate giving advice with these things, because someone could be in an abusive relationship, and I'm like telling them, give them the benefit of the doubt, and I don't know what's happening.
No, there's certain things, abuse, no. So I think you know when it's a situation where maybe you could have sat down and talked to someone or a misunderstanding, and you should give benefit of the doubt. But then there's situations when you know it's just not gonna work, it's wrong, and to sever it.
I'm very skeptical with this thing, because I just feel like but I love having conversations. So even if it's hard, I'm uncomfortable because it's a hard conversation. But I'm like, we have to talk about this, because if we don't talk about it, resentment builds and so many things build. But I've had situations where we've had some healthy we've had those conversations, and you guys come out of that conversation being like the best place ever. The relationship grows and it's still living. And then some of the ones where you guys do have the conversation, it doesn't still progress after that. And then the ones where people don't want to have the conversations, and like they're old, they're aged people. Sometimes I'm like, you're too old to be running away from little confrontation. It's uncomfortable for me too.
Avoidance. We call them avoidance.
But sometimes I also look at it like maybe they didn't put like weight on the relationship. Like even if they say, oh, we're friends, but then you don't want to just have a simple conversation about like maybe something you said or I said, that we can just like really talk about it. So
sometimes people don't value as much as you value. You have those situations where you're like, that's my bestie, but you might not be their bestie.
Oh, that's
it's sometimes the weight of how you value the friendship or a relationship is not matching, you know.
But I think measures should be taken before cutting people off. You should think about it so much that your head aches. You know, you should be like, should I really be doing this? And try. Did you try? Did you try to fix it? Did you try to make an amends? If you tried and it really didn't work out, okay, maybe that's not it.
I have a name for it. I call it curiosity. It's weird because I was having this conversation with a friend recently, and I said, when it comes to cutting off people, I wish sometimes in my life people approach me with more curiosity. Because curiosity, it kind of goes with communication. Instead of just assuming or thinking you know a person, or, attaching a label to them or putting a stamp on the friendship or who that person is, sometimes people don't approach with curiosity. Instead of asking questions to seek to understand, it's straight to let me just cut them off because this is who I think you are. Instead of just sitting down like, well, why did you do this? Or where does that come from? Seeking to understand. But if you don't do that with yourself, you ain't going to do it with nobody else.
Another question I love is like, what did you hear when I said that?
No, that's therapy speak. We call that therapy speak. But people don't use it in real life. So
I be asking the question. I'm like, well, because sometimes you say something else and someone hears something else. And then when you ask them, you can then elaborate. Actually, I realize half of the time, not with everything, it's just a misunderstanding.
Usually,
it's just miscommunication, just a misunderstanding. But I think at the end of the day, usually what I tell myself is the relationships that are meant to stay in my life, and the ones that maybe they've run their course, because we do have to also understand some relationships are like for a season, whether it's a friendship or whatever, it's for a season. And then some are for maybe a lifetime. I have friends that I've known since I was in diapers. So like you have those long lasting relationships. You guys are changing together and understanding each other. It's so crazy because the way you guys would just easily adjust to, this person is now here. This person, we just adjust to each other. And then there's somewhere the adjustment is so difficult and you're like, why? It's not supposed to be this hard. But then also, it's okay. I feel like those relationships that are hard refine your heart and teaches you so much more.
It does. It definitely does. And then some relationships, it might fizzle out and then come back, like you said, if it's meant to be there, even if it take a break, it'll come back.
And also, what are your I don't know, is your opinion? What is your opinion on like taking a break?
When it comes to friendships? I've had that happen. I've had friends where maybe we didn't see eye to eye. We went our separate way, and then somebody came back and apologized, and we talked and came to an understanding. Because sometimes you might just need to take a break from each other.
You just need a breather.
Or in that space you're in, you need to go and learn some lessons and reflect and sit with yourself, and then you come back and you're on a different page. So I don't see anything wrong with it. One things I learned at a young age is to hold people loosely. And I used to hold on so tightly to people, and
Me
that's
too.
part of the wounds I got. But
I think we all do. To a certain extent, you do. Especially growing up, you're like, I like this person, stay.
yeah, but you can't. You have to hold people loosely because, you know, we all are moving at different paces, have our own lessons to learn. And sometimes you may need to release people to go on and live life and learn things, and then they come back, or you might be the person in that in those shoes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, I think we've talked about the things that we don't really agree with. Is there any other thing you want to add?
Now I gotta think of off the top of my head.
But then what are some of the things that we do agree with?
When it comes to boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries, and then maybe the information that is out there too.
So I listen to, I guess it depends on what you listen to. For me, my algorithm is a lot of, you know, therapists and psychologists, since that's what I'm pursuing. And so I'm learning even myself a lot about boundaries, and I'm really learning a lot on the sitting with discomfort thing. That is a hard thing, even for me, to sit with discomfort. I do agree with a lot of what, you know, psychologists are saying about being able to decipher if you're uncomfortable with something and if it's you trying to avoid. And I'm not an avoidant type of person. I can have hard conversations, but everyone at some point encounter those situations where you're like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this. I don't even want to have this conversation. And being able to have the courage to say, it's needed. Let me sit with this. Let me sit with my feelings. And I've actually gotten better at, I call it processing. When I feel something, not always being quick to express how I feel to someone. I will go off and sit by myself and process what's going on in me, because sometimes I don't have the words for it.
Yeah.
And so I'll process what I'm going through. And it's not me avoiding the hard conversation or me trying to being avoidant. It's me processing. And then I will go have that hard conversation with the person, you know, enforce whatever boundary and discuss it.
But I think processing is important. It's okay for you to,
or you'll just be reacting all the time. Yeah.
And you're going to just speak from that place of hurt without actually
Knowing.
even putting yourself in that person's shoe for a little minute.
Yeah. Or even not even just putting yourself in their shoes, but understanding what you're feeling. Because sometimes you may not really get what you're feeling until you sit with it and you give it a name and you actually walk through how you got there.
Yeah. I love it. But I'll add something to that. You give it a name, you walk through how you actually got there, and then do something about it.
Exactly.
Because I think one thing that I've noticed, especially in our generation, just everything going on, we've healed too much. We're too quick we know what's going on with us now. We know the names, we know everything.
We don't integrate.
But we don't integrate. I feel like we're not practicing enough. We're not doing enough. We're not applying enough.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is how I think I am. And then, okay, you just walk around telling everyone, okay, you're not doing anything about it. You're not actively seeking, you know, the right kind of help or how to grow from that place into a better place. So I was just like, I think we should not stay healing forever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have to get to a place in your life where you're like, I think I know how to regulate my nervous system now. Yeah. Like, you're still going to keep growing in those areas. There's still something to always be healing about, but healing shouldn't be your entire personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's very tricky. That's something I had to like check myself on, because it can easily become your personality. It can easily become your whole identity. And I think in an attempt to kind of change our surroundings to a more peaceful surrounding where we feel safe, you kind of almost eliminate even the opportunities where you have to use what you learn.
Yeah.
So if you're never being in those situations where you have to apply what you've learned, then you do kind of question, am I healed? Because I won't know until somebody triggers me. And that's when you get to see what you learned being applied, or if you actually apply it. And that's where I'm at now, where I'm really like, okay, I've been abroad. I've been away from the things that traumatize me. And even with, you know, being expats, making friendships comes a little differently and harder. So you're not always thrown into friendships. So it's like, even now I'm like, okay, I'm not getting the testing feel I need to see if I can actually apply what I've learned. And then when I get those situations, they're very sporadic now. When I get them, now I'm like, okay, I see I'm stopping to process.
I love that.
I see I'm now removing people who are not good for me, even if it took me a few trials. I'm now paying attention to see what I learned. And I do think I still need more testing ground.
I think we all do. And I feel like you get testing ground when you're out there, not when you're hiding away or cooked up somewhere.
Right.
I had this tree analogy in my head. I always have a tree analogy in my head where I'm like, when I am Like, because there have been seasons in my life where I'm just like, I'm not getting around those people. They're so mean. They're so evil. And then I'm on my tree. I have an imaginary tree. I'm on my tree right now. I'm not coming down from this tree. People are evil. And then when I finally like calm down and I have to interact with those people and I react differently, I respond differently, and I'm just like very sure of myself. I'm like, oh, I was actually learning a lot of things. So I took out time to like process everything, and then I can react better. So I give myself a pat on the back. For me, every time I have like a different response to what I would have said would have triggered me before, or now, like you said something at the beginning where like you just don't care. Actually, I'm at that point. I really don't care. I'm like, okay, bye.
Right.
So you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm really handling this differently because I think, especially as women, not every woman is like this, but for me, I grew up in like a very nurturing environment where I'd want to seek things out and try to fix situations, try to do this and try to do this. But sometimes it happens the way it was meant to happen. That's how I just put it. Like but for me, I always try to try my best.
Right.
I did my best. I tried because I don't like living in regret. I don't like thinking, oh, I should have said that. Oh, I should have done this. No, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to find what I need to find, seek out solutions. And then I know I did everything that I could, and then I just leave it to God. I'm like, if this is how it was meant to be, it's okay.
Yeah. Or even if you didn't do everything, being able to go back and reflect on what you could do next time in that situation.
I think reflection is key.
It's definitely key. Yeah.
It's at the center of everything. We should go back and reflect.
Yes. Always reflect.
Yeah. But what is one word of encouragement that you have for someone who has like listened to us talk about boundaries and maybe resilience and going after your calling, because our purpose revolves around God,
right?
But just like the things that he's putting in our hearts, like, oh, you pursue this, go do this, go try this. Like, what is one encouragement you give to someone who has maybe listened to us?
Obviously, no matter what you go through, know that there is always a purpose. If God put you on this earth, and if you're still breathing and he's waking you up every day, you have a purpose. You have something that he has designed for you to do. Or shall I say calling? You have a calling, something he's designed for you to do. And do know that you have more choice in your life than you think. I grew up thinking everything was, God said this has to happen. Amen. And I have to do it this way. And, people telling me or prophesying over me. And not to say that they were wrong, or not all of them, but you have choices along your life. Your choices do matter. God gives you choice. That is a part of his love for you, is giving you autonomy and choice in your purpose. And you get to choose how you get there, or I wouldn't say how you get there, but you get to choose different parts along the way to getting there. And so know that you have a choice, and that your purpose, you can't even mess that up. That's something God has designated for you. You can, prolong it, but it's something he designated for you.
There's something I often tell myself, like, because I have moments where, and this was before, I feel like I've grown so much over the last couple of years, but before, like, when the things that I'm doing get really hard, or because I work with people a lot, so when it becomes really hard, I'm like, I quit, I give up and everything. And then so I heard this thing one time. I was like, how do you quit your calling? How do you quit your purpose? And it made so much sense in hindsight, because I realized every time I'm like, I quit, I don't want to do this anymore, somehow I end up doing it again. Somehow God just like, and I call them God opportunities. The moment I'm like, I quit, I don't think this thing is even for me, it's not blah, 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 blah. I don't think I'm good enough to blah, 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 blah. The next minute, God is giving me some opportunity that I never thought and I never imagined, and it revolves around that same thing. So I was like, the amount of times I've tried to quit and the amount of times I've found myself back there, I do think it's God, and you don't quit a calling. How do you quit what you're, meant to be doing? You can't. And you said something. I think it's something that I've really been trying to encourage myself to, and like a lot of people around me. Like, we should stop living in scarcity mindset. We do have a lot of options in life. And I'm not saying discard people or whatever, but then sometimes there's always better.
Yeah, it is.
If someone is treating you a certain kind of way, someone else is going to treat you like a princess. If people are not valuing your time, someone else is going to value your time. And I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying
sometimes you have to release people. Yes.
Yeah, but don't live like, oh, this is the only good thing that's ever happened to me. Nothing. No, there's so much good available in the world. Like, don't live in a scarcity mindset of like, this is as good as it gets. No, there's so much more. Like,
it is. There's always more. There's always, you can't even fathom what God has for you.
Actually, for me personally, I try to remind myself, he's always waiting for you to let go.
Yes,
because
the teddy bear. Yes,
he's always just waiting for you to like just let go, and then you just see something else happens that's so much more better than the one you were holding on to.
It usually always is better.
Yeah, it's always better. It's like you leaving one job and then you always move to a better job, better pay and better everything. So this is always gonna be better than, so just let go, especially when some things are hard. Practice asking God, like, is this a hard thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Because don't be stupid out here. Like, is this a hard thing I'm supposed to be doing? If it's because sometimes we stay in very hard situations when it's not something we should be,
That's the discernment. Yeah,
the discernment.
That's
part.
Another thing. Make sure you get some discernment before 2026. You need it. You need it.
Yeah. Okay. Like last question. Oh my God, I just had another question. But then your one way of like cultivating discernment, what is it?
It's weird because all of my life I actually had it and didn't know I had it. I did not know that's what it was. But I would say now cultivating discernment is paying attention to what's happening around you, paying attention to the clues, paying attention to your dreams. For me, my dreams has been a big part of it. Like God will warn me things and speak to me in my dreams. And I'll be like, what is that? And just go about my business. Pay attention. You really got to pay attention or you will miss a lot of things. Ooh. And so discernment requires your attention. Asking questions, going to God and praying about things, especially let's say it was a dream. Make sure you're going to him and praying about these things, asking for clarity. But also trusting yourself. Self-trust is a big part of discernment. I think I struggled with self-trust in my earlier years and I end up being right about a lot of things.
Ooh, you always right. Especially that gut feeling.
That feeling, right. That, some people call it intuition, but it's discernment. It's self-trust is so important. Trusting the first time. And I'm not saying, cutting off people and labeling people. I mean, actually, when it keeps, like, if it's from God, discernment is from God. If it's from God, it keeps coming up.
It keeps coming up.
Trust it. And if you still don't understand it, seek him for clarity and ask questions. But self-trust is a big part of being able to discern properly and actually follow through on what you discerned.
I usually don't call it self-trust. Because I'm a Christian, so I know the Holy Spirit lives inside of me.
The Holy Spirit, you're right.
For me, it's the Holy Spirit. Like, if it keeps coming out, like, the Holy Spirit is saying this thing. That God feeling for me is the Holy Spirit. And I think I just want to add one more thing to the things you listed out. It's like trusting how your body, like self-trust and trusting how your body reacts to certain environments, certain people, what is happening in your body when you get around those places, because your body is speaking to you. It does speak, actually sometimes God speaks to us through our body. So it's paying attention, like you said, paying attention to those little things and always just going back to God.
And I'm glad you corrected me on that. It is definitely the Holy Spirit. He works through us, but all of that is him giving you clues.
And also have conversations, guys.
Yes, definitely.
we there's so many words because we're not communicating.
Yes.
But then Akea, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I will have all the links to her platforms. You're on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I'll have her LinkedIn, her Instagram. What else do you do? Like, is there anything that you're doing, like, people can get in contact with you for or something like that?
Yes, so I just got into content creating as a way to launch into what I'm doing with my master's for clinical mental health. And so I do a lot of speaking on the wisdom I've learned and gained and talking about purpose, different series, just trying to encourage people to find strength in their story. Amen. And it's called The Resilient Girl on Instagram and TikTok. So I'll have all those links there and go follow her. And she has a lot of nuggets to share. So that is good. That is good. So you guys are going to be learning so many things. But thank you so much for being here, guys, on the last episode of the year. And I really pray and I hope that this episode has been an encouragement to you to end the year on a good note and also start on a better note. Like, I hope you're encouraged to want to go after your calling and do the things that God has been dropping in your heart to do and just get back to the foundation of who you are as a person and unlearn some of the things that maybe you've been learning that are very unhealthy for you, and then relearn some really good healthy habits and prioritizing your relationships, your career, your have those great priorities at the top of your ladder. So I hope you have a great end of 2025 and looking forward to seeing you guys in 2026. But thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and join the family. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts on. And I'll see you guys next year. Bye-bye.